Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is Kody, plain and simple. And today's topic is going to be what I've actually been looking forward to doing. Is called Why Don't You Just? Why Don't You Just basically is whenever you have something going on and it's not blatantly obvious, and even sometimes when, you've got tubes stuck up your nose and people ask you questions like, okay, well, why don't you just dot dot dot? And the thing about it is, usually what comes after those dots or in place of those dots is never anything good. So back before I was as far along in with the development of the muscular industry as I am, I was still able to go upstairs, but with a lot of trouble, depending on how far back in the timeline you go. So a couple of years ago, I know people don't mean any harm by it, but after a while, it's like I will talk to my closer friends in a more cynical way than I would somebody who I don't know. So I was with one of my homeboys, and he lived in an apartment that was down some stairs. So when we were leaving, and I was walking up the stairs, I um I put half of my foot, actually maybe not even that much. I put maybe just about the front part right behind where my toes are, like the balls of your feet on the bottom side. That much would be on the stair. And I would use my arms, I would use my arm and my cane to do most of the lifting and then push with that one foot. So instead of doing a bipedal motion like one foot over the other, it was like one foot up, bring the other one. One foot up, bring the other one. And it's eventually I'd get to where I gotta go. So my friend says, well, why don't you put your whole foot up there? And I just kind of turned and I cut my eyes at him and I didn't say anything because honestly, at that moment, I didn't know how to explain it. So, okay, there's been so many moments where it's like, okay, you go further back, even further before that, um, when I still had decent balance and walking wasn't as labored as it is now. Whenever I would go somewhere, and let's say maybe I did or didn't necessarily have to use the cane, um, I park. Let's say I go to a gas station like Quick Trip, park at the curb, but where the handicap spots are, the handicap ramp was nowhere near them, which stupid. But anyway, so park in the handicap spot. And instead of stepping up on the curb, I had to walk all the way to where the handicap indentation was, come all the way back to the door. Well, Kody, why don't you just shh? Don't finish your statement. It's gonna be stupid. But it's like, okay, well, isn't it obvious that if I could step up on the curb, I would? So yeah, it's just a lot of times people say stuff and they don't really realize or think about what it is they're saying. But it's like, at some point, I would like to believe that some sort of common sense would kick in. It's like, okay, if you know enough at this point to know that I walk with a cane, my walking gait is completely off, and there's this huge curve in my spine, which further makes my gait awkward. But you're asking me, why don't I just do this or why don't I just do that? And it's like, come on. And me, I'm a person where I don't really like repeating myself. Occasionally, I don't mind, but for all general purposes, I don't really care for repeating myself. Or it could be, okay, I just noticed that the picture behind me is crooked, and I have no idea what happened there. That's some of my mom artwork, by the way. She did that around 1985. Helped my sister with a project. But I digress. Anyway, um, so yeah, but a lot of times when I'm talking to somebody and just in casual conversation, I'm like, yeah, so such and such and such, I did this, this, this. Well, why didn't you just do this or why didn't you just do that? Well, and the thing is this: a lot of times, if I don't do something a certain way, it's usually a grocery list. Most people should know me well enough now to know that I do a lot of things, and I don't. It's not much that I do without reason or without purpose. A lot of that comes from I only have so much energy to do stuff. So I've learned to be efficient about things. And one of my faults is sometimes when I see somebody doing something and I notice that they're not doing it efficiently, a lot of times I've learned to hold my tongue. But sometimes I'm just kind of like, all right, you got me with you. We're doing this. I need to preserve energy. Would you consider doing this? Because they look at me like I'm crazy. And it's just like, who do you think is probably better with efficiency? You with, normal energy? Or somebody who has less energy and has to be smarter about how they move, literally. So, you know, I try to take stuff like that and use it as a teaching moment and not get upset or agitated because all that does is waste more energy. So, okay, something else I was going to get into too. Now, I know I said that these videos were supposed to be a realistic portrayal of life, uh, no glam and no, no filters, no cat ears, no looking like a piece of toast or a bumblebee, right? But side joke, everybody that knows me knows I hate filters. But so here's the thing. I have not had a haircut or a shave in a while, as you can see. And a lot of people will just be like, oh, well, why don't you just, here we go again. So, again, go back to what I said about energy, right? I think I mentioned in a previous video before that even for me to walk across my room to stand up at my microwave and cook something is a labor to get there. And it's the funny thing is, it's easier to walk over there than it is to actually stand there and wait for something to cook. So, with that in mind, translate that over into shaving. So, I got an electric shaver, right? Cool. But it still takes time. I can work faster with an electric shaver than I can a blade, but it takes time. Unless you just don't care what you come out looking like. Can I know there's someone saying, well, you don't care what you looking like right now? Bitch, be quiet. I'm talking. Anyway, hey, you wanted to filter Kody? Well, here it is. But yeah, it takes time to do that, and in the process of shaving, I have to balance myself some way, and balance is something a lot of people don't have to think about; they just do it. In a case with Pompey's, when you're in the stages that I'm in, you have to think about a lot of stuff that isn't that most people just aren't conscious of. So for you don't think about breathing, you don't think about your posture, you don't think about your balance, you don't think about your footsteps, and yet still, I've gotten to the fact where I have actually have learned how to look at the floor or the ground in front of me without tilting my head down. I just look at it before I come up on it, but I am looking constantly. I've learned how to gauge the width of a space I'm about to navigate because most people's toes point from heel to toe, they point straight forward. Mine from heel to toe go out in like a Y or a V shape. So it's real easy for my toes to clip something and whoops, down I go. Uh, so again, with the whole shaving thing, it takes a lot of coordination, a lot of balance, and then even when I'm taking like the razor and I'm going up to my face like this on either side, well, that's one more hand I don't have to balance. And in some cases, I actually have to take one hand and hold my other elbow because it's not strong enough for me to reach certain angles. So it's this really weird ballet that I've just learned how to do. Now, as far as the haircut is concerned, my mother had been my barber ever since I was a kid. And she has been a beautician, a cosmetologist, and a barber for like, jeez, about 50 some years now. So she always took care of that and handled that for me. And now I'm just entering a stage where could she do it? Yes, but I know that my mom has her own health issues. I know that my time for standing up and her time for standing up has gotten to the point where they're almost neck and neck, and that's not a good thing. So I don't like to ask my mom to do anything that requires long periods of standing. I know she'll do it. I know that my mom will go as far as to hurt herself in order to help me, which that's a video. That's a whole separate video in itself. But yeah, so I try to be considerate of her and her needs. And I get a lot of comments again, and people don't know what's going on behind closed doors. It's like, oh, well, you haven't shaved her. Oh, you should edge that up, or oh, you should do this. And I've really gotten to the point where I just listen to folks. I'm like, okay, I hear you. Thank you. Okay, got it. Because the other thing about the whole why don't you just thing is 9 times out of 10, if you run down a list of why you do and don't do something, a lot of people who aren't familiar or who live their day to day lives will be like, oh, you're just making excuses. And once upon a time, I used to care what other people think, but once upon a time, people also thought the earth was flu. Never mind. Anyway, yeah, the bottom line is there's usually a list of why I do and don't do the things that I do. So it just gets tiresome after a while trying to explain that to people over and over again. So I take the comments, I just listen, I ignore them. Uh, my barber, who I have now, is absolutely amazing. But now the thing you have to look at is what I gotta travel to him, which means I gotta watch the weather. I gotta watch if there's these nuts out on the back patio. You have to see a previous video to get that one, more or less. But yeah, I have to consider my energy levels for that day. Like when I wake up and I start moving around, do I actually feel strong enough and confident enough that I can even get to my car? And do I feel confident enough that I can control my car? So on most days, that's a yes, but on days where I feel like it's a no, I don't even bother. So that's pretty much the gist of it. And when I get a chance and when I have the money, I get to my barber. He hooks it up. And if you really want to see an example of his work and you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you'd have to go back to before I left to go to Vegas. I mean, he just my boy hooked it up. As a matter of fact, if you're in Georgia, the Lithonia Stone Mountain area or the nearby vicinities, it's called E Cuts, and it's over in Stone Mountain. It's in that plaza where Highway 78 goes from being a highway into a surface street. It's a plaza that sits over to the left. I think it either is or used to be an Outback Steakhouse in the same plaza. It's behind the plaza with Hardee's. It used to be an Arby's there, but that's also where that drive-through Waffle House is. But yeah, that's another thing. If I ever have friends or people I know who have a business, I'm real quick to shout them out. So, especially if they're good. If you're not good, I don't care how good of friends we are, I just won't say anything. But if you are good, yeah, and he's good. Um, at some point, I'll probably show or hold up or post pictures to show you his work. But he's good. Go see that man. But since I just got paid recently, I'm probably gonna be making my way over there pretty soon anyway. So, Emmanuel, coming to see you, dude. So anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for this video of, or this episode of Kody Plain and Simple. Stay tuned next time when I when I get around to talking about dating and relationships. That's definitely gonna be 2 parts. That might even be 3 or 4 parts. But anyway, love you guys. Talk to you later. I'm Kody, and that's news to me.